Why is balance an important consideration when thinking about nearly all things AI? Find out on today's episode.
I'm Vishal Gupta from Reddit, and you are listening to Me, Myself, and AI.
Welcome to Me, Myself, and AI, a podcast from MIT Sloan Management Review, exploring the future of artificial intelligence. I'm Sam Ransbotham, professor of analytics at Boston College. I've been researching data, analytics, and AI at MIT SMR since 2014, with research articles, annual industry reports, case studies, and now 12 seasons of podcast episodes. On each episode, corporate leaders, cutting-edge researchers, and AI policymakers join us to break down what separates AI hype from AI success. Hi listeners, thanks for joining us again. Our guest today is Vishal Gupta, Engineering Manager, Machine Learning at Reddit. He's helped bring cutting-edge AI products used by billions, like YouTube, Google Ads, all the biggies. Vishal has deep expertise in machine learning, recommender systems, large-scale data processing. At Reddit, he's also been closely involved in the relationship between platforms like Reddit and the overall AI ecosystem, which I'm excited to learn about. Vishal, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sam. Nice to be here.
I read a stat that Reddit has 1 billion posts, which is hard to imagine, and like 100,000 communities, and the 5th most visited website in the US, 7th in the world. I mean, these are crazy numbers. So I suspect that most of our listeners know about Reddit. But can you give us a quick overview of what is Reddit?
Yeah. So Reddit is a platform where we have hundreds of thousands of communities. People come to Reddit to explore their interests on these vast array of communities. One can subscribe to these communities, have a discussion on a topic. One can chime into already happening discussion, and one can also go upward and downward stuff. Whether you are into Lord of the Rings or whether you are into cricket, you can find something that you can relate to. Go engage with the content.
That's great. It's interesting you mentioned cricket, because actually I'm on the record as not really believing that cricket exists. But we're not going to go into that. Let's start with how Reddit is using artificial intelligence. Can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, Reddit is using artificial intelligence in various types of ways. I will talk about 2 high-level ways of using AI, and then we can go deeper into those. First use case of AI is enabling users finding the right communities they can engage with. So once users start their journey on Reddit, they will visit some of the communities that are maybe popular, or they are matching the interests they showed while signing up. But we want users to engage with niche communities that they can really belong to. So connecting users with the content. Another very important use case is when you're browsing Reddit, there is a feed. So if the feed is engaging, it's relevant to you, it is able to satisfy the content needs that you are looking for. AI is powering all of that. And now Reddit is a serious ads platform showing right ad to the right user at the right time, which is relevant to them. It is all powered by AI. That is another broader use case of AI within the company.
Yeah, I guess my first reaction was probably pretty naive. I guess I didn't realize that there were 100,000 communities. And so my guess was if I just typed the name of what I want, I would find what I want. But I would guess this is a form of recommendation engine that you're doing. Maybe take a minute and explain recommendation engines for people.
Yeah, you're spot on, Sam. It's exactly a recommendation system. So what recommendation system does is that it captures short-term and long-term users' interest and provide recommendations that might be valuable to the users. Maybe, for example, user Vishal is typically interested in cricket and Lord of the Rings, but right now he is searching for what blender to buy. So if there is an explicit query on the platform, we want to make sure that we are able to satisfy the information needs of the user. So there is a recommendation system component that supports search as well. So that is how I will define recommendation system.
You've been working with recommendation systems for quite a while in your career. What's changed over the time you've been working with them? How are recommendation engines now different than the recommendation engines of our forefathers?
Oh, wow. I started working on recommendation systems as my first job in Google back in 2015. So at that time, most of the recommendation systems were powered by simple collaborative filtering type of algorithms. So basically, users have explicit engagement with items, and there is large metrics which basically expresses users' interest, and then you do very simple metrics factorization and generate some recommendations for users. That is how Netflix challenge was won, and that were the old school recommendation system. The next step in recommendation system was, okay, let's just try to predict what is the probability of engagement instead of just capturing broad user interest. There were simple logistic regression models that capture the probability of engagement. Now that is still 2016, 2017. Near 2018, 2019, a lot of systems started leveraging deep learning to revamp their recommendation system stacks. People started using two-tower models, and that replaced your collaborative filtering models. Then people started using heavy ranking models to get accurate prediction of engagement on some piece of content. That is how I call it. Maybe that is the second wave. And the third wave is now we have very powerful LLMs, powerful models that also can understand what an item is about, both visually with text. So multimodal, right? Now, all of those powerful representations go feed into recommendation models, and we get hyper personalized recommendations. One thing to add here is people across the industry have realized that only optimizing for past user behavior is not the way, because then you will be driving users only to rabbit holes. So there should be fair amount of exploration, and how to balance exploration versus exploitation is an important topic, and people have been using RL or some simple methods to get that balance.
Hey folks, I'm Amar, Product and Design Lead at Google DeepMind. We just launched a revamped vibe coding experience in AI Studio that lets you mix and match AI capabilities to turn your ideas into reality faster than ever. Just describe your app and Gemini will automatically wire up the right models and APIs for you. And if you need a spark, hit I'm feeling lucky and we'll help you get started. Head to ai.studio/build to create your first app.
That's right.
I think that the idea of exploitation and exploration is big, because I feel like that just comes up almost in every context. We want to optimize what we're doing, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're not doing something completely different. And you happened to mention the Netflix challenge. And for our listeners that may not be familiar, this was a challenge that Netflix did probably a decade or more ago, where they gave a contest and said, here's $1 million if you can improve our recommendations. And one of my favorite parts of that story is that they did give the prize out to a team called Belcore's Pragmatic Chaos, if I remember right. But they never end up using the algorithms, because the algorithms in the world had changed so much by the time the contest was finished. So that really speaks to what you're saying, is that getting recommendations hyper-personalized right now is a very challenging job, because not only does the world change, but people change and lots changing at the same time. I think it's just a fascinating world.
Absolutely. I think recommendation systems and ads are one of the most beautiful problems, in my opinion.
Oh, I got to push back there. What makes that problem beautiful? Why is it beautiful?
Basically, the way I look at ads, it's not a pure recommendation system problem. It's an auction at the end of the day. Advertisers can bid to show the right ad at the right time, but ad platforms also need to make sure that ads are relevant. So balancing what advertisers want and their long-term value, and balancing users' long-term value, it's a very interesting problem. So that's why I say it's very beautiful. It has a component of recommendation plus marketplace.
Okay, that's the second time you've mentioned balance too. You mentioned the balance of explore, exploit. You mentioned the balance of the need for people to pay for these ads and also for us to see relevant ads. Balance is a big part of all these algorithms. Maybe just switch to think about a different sort of balance. A lot of the content in the world right now is being generated by machines and not by humans. And so I think one of the things that Reddit is on record as saying is that human conversation is not being replaced by AI, but instead is becoming more important. I really like that idea because if we have a whole lot of AI-generated content that's common, then in theory, human conversation will be more distinct and more real and more legitimate. But at the same time, it's also much more of a needle in a haystack. So how are you balancing the need to incorporate all this content that's being generated now, at the same time trying to highlight human and authentic voices?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sam. So a lot of data is being generated by LLMs. But if you look at how these LLMs are getting trained, they are essentially getting trained on human generated data. So human generated data will get more and more valuable. I think there is again a balance. Sometimes people just want some information and they don't have bandwidth to sift through all the human generated content. There's something like ChatGPT, Gemini, or even Reddit answers can satisfy those needs. But sometimes you really want to engage and converse on the specific topic that you are interested in. There is significant value in making users engage and have them actually create content.
Actually, I really hope that that's true, and I hope that it survives that. I mean, you mentioned the idea that most of these models are trained off of human conversation, but there have been some recent papers. There was one in Science recently that talked about a potential decay problem as these models start to ingest their own output. Are you worried about that, or do you think that Reddit offers a new source of information to hopefully get us through the idea of new content versus just regenerating the old?
I'm not at all worried about that. I think people love talking about the interests. People are passionate. So I'm not at all worried. We humans will continue generating content. Some AI tools might aid us in getting content in the right format or correcting grammar, like correcting tone. But human content is not going away. And Reddit is one place where humans will continue writing and engaging with content.
Yeah, I guess in general, I have that question as I think about our changing perspectives on the internet and towards large language models versus small language models. Do you have a perspective on when we should be using sort of more general tools or when we should be using more specialized tools? It seems like Reddit Answers is an example of a more specialized tool that might fit in some cases, but then there are other places where we use more general tools. How do we make a decision about how to go down one path versus go down another path?
I don't have a great answer to this, but I can tell you what I do. So let's say I want to change my car battery myself. I want a multi-model capability that I can show this is what I'm trying to do, and it can help me debug on the spot. For that, I use generalized large-scale LLMs. Google's Gemini is really good. ChatGPT is good. But when I want to, let's say, do a research on, hey, where should I go for a vacation in, let's say, Hawaii, or what should I buy? There, I value more user-generated content as compared to something which is very prescriptive from large language models. So that is where I think like value add of a small model or Reddit Answers type of product is.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you use the car battery example because a little fun fact for everybody is that my first date was changing my wife's battery in her car that had died. One of the other things I was thinking about is if I go to a search engine and search, I can get content from Reddit. What's the thinking about Reddit in terms of what makes someone go natively to Reddit to search for something versus going through a search engine? And how do you think about that? Or how does that change your perspective on solving these problems?
we have a lot of users who come to Reddit via search engine because people want to search something on Reddit and they use search engine to get access to that content. I was doing that myself. The answer to that is there is value in both. We want to support the internet and we want to make sure user get access to the content they are looking for. What we are doing on our side is like Reddit Answers is a great product. So if you're a heavy Reddit user, you're already on the app and you're searching for something and you just want Reddit sourced data, that is something you can use. So Reddit Answers is something that I'm really looking forward to. I really love that product. Previously, I was going and searching on Gemini or ChatGPT, but I directly get all my answers on Reddit app itself. So this is one thing I'm personally very excited about as a Reddit user, although I work in Reddit ads. When you go to Reddit's homepage or subreddit feed, will keep on getting better and better. People are working really hard to improve recommendation systems there, personalization, etc. On the ad side, we are continually improving our ranking models, retrieval models. So as a Reddit user, people will continue seeing that ads are getting more and more relevant to them. So I'm really excited about push in both directions.
How can ads help? What's the future of solving that dilemma where you have people like me who don't want to tell everything, but at the same time, I also want relevant stuff?
I strongly believe that there is two types of relevance. One kind of relevance is stuff that user is generally interested in. So for example, organic content on Reddit is really good indicator of users' interests, both for recommendation system and ads. I think we will continually invest in generating nice ads experience, which is based on these first party engagements. And second, we are very heavily working on contextually relevant ads. So capturing the user's current behavior in last few minutes, few hours within the session so that we can show relevant ads. As an end user, I also don't share my information with a lot of websites. And I think an ad platform is great if they're able to still show relevant ads in a privacy preserving way.
Right, one can hope. MIT Federal Credit Union understands students' unique banking needs. MIT FCU is here to help students achieve their academic goals today by supporting their financial future. With an on-campus branch, 8 on-campus ATMs, lifetime membership, and a checking account with exclusive benefits, students can focus on their studies without worrying about banking needs. Learn more at mitfcu.org/podcast. MIT Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. So, one of the things that we like to do on the show is ask some quick questions. Answer off the first thing that comes to your mind. What about AI is moving faster or slower than you expected?
I think the things that are moving faster in AI is like people have figured out how to train the LLMs. Compute is a bottleneck. So scaling laws is true, like training larger models is getting easier and easier. The things that are moving slower in AI is like real innovation on the core AI side. So if you look at all the recent papers, most of the innovation is happening on the system side. How do you squeeze more juice out of your compute? How you make some flops more efficient? So that is where pace of AI has decelerated in my personal opinion.
Okay, so flops are floating point operations per second. So the discussion is there's some stuff about making those things faster, but where's I guess what you're looking for is more algorithmic improvement? Would that count as
Exactly. That has slowed down, especially after LLMs came and everyone wants to just improve LLMs.
Okay. So what are people using AI for right now that they shouldn't be using AI for? What's a bad use of AI?
I think using only AI to do homework is, I think, bad use of AI. One should really think about learning using AI to get all your work done without actually thinking important parts through is bad use of AI.
What's the biggest misconception that you think most people have about artificial intelligence and machine learning? What are people wrong about?
I think misconception that a lot of folks in the industry have about AI is that AI will solve everything very quickly. I can give you like a very personal example that I keep on seeing throughout my career. We have very good coding agents, we have very powerful models, but I think there is still value in rewriting your entire code base from scratch. There are some unintentional bugs that humans introduced, and most likely AI models will introduce when editing these codes. So there is still value in rewriting stuff. AI is not going to solve all the problems. AI will enable humans to solve problems at a faster pace.
Well, hi, everyone. Our branded interview segment is with Shayan Mohanty, Chief Data and AI Officer at ThoughtWorks. Shayan, thanks for taking the time to share a bit about ThoughtWorks. Can you give us some background on the company?
We're a technology services company. We've been in and around the tech industry, helping shape it for a really long time. And now we're doing the same thing in data and AI in our small little way and hoping to grow that very quickly.
Let's talk about scaling artificial intelligence. It's one thing to get some AI pilot going, and it's a completely different thing to take it to the enterprise. What's ThoughtWorks' experience with scaling from pilots?
We see a couple primary issues. So number one, interpretability is actually a huge problem. And what I mean by that is really trust. Like, how do people trust models? And fundamentally, that is an existentially hard problem. Some part of that lives in user experience. Like, what are we showing people? How are we showing them that information? How do we show that the model is thinking? But even more than that, how do we show them a view into what the model is thinking and hopefully help them control it? Some part of that lives at UX. Some part of that lives in how we design the models themselves and the systems around them. We kind of operate at all of those levels. And more than that, we have an AI research team as well. Our goal is to build systems that people can fundamentally trust and know that there are knobs and levers that they can kind of manipulate to better control their AI systems.
What are you seeing changing in terms of trust?
I think number one is just gone are the days of treating an AI purely as a black box. We all recognize that even like 5 years ago, pre-ChatGPT, people were building their own neural nets within their own four walls, hand designing it, training it on their own data. And now all of a sudden, you're lobbing API requests over the wall to OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever, with AI becoming the center of all net new capabilities. Like, I can't imagine a world, especially today, when AI is not at some level at the heart of every new enterprise application. We're getting to a point where people need to be able to reason about what's happening under the hood and if it's aligned to what they expect. So that's why we have a whole bunch of systems around this, like guardrails, evals. We kind of have two things going in parallel as ThoughtWorks. One is we have industry specific, use case specific things that we're doing. If it's a summarization task, we have a concept of completeness. We're still validating this hypothesis. We believe that there exists some base vocabulary that describes the overall performance of an AI system, not just a model, but the way you're using the model, the way everything kind of touches it, the retrieval systems you use, like everything end to end. We believe there exists some base set of Lego blocks that can kind of be stitched together to describe the performance of that system. That's a very academic pursuit. We're putting it in the realm of research at the moment, but over time, we're exposing our clients more and more to that way of thinking.
You're completely right that the metrics of the whole classification model with classic ML don't apply in the Gen AI world, and we don't really have good replacements there. It'd be nice to come up with a taxonomy to start with, just like we did with machine learning.
That's right.
Jan, thanks for joining us today. Great stuff.
Thanks so much for having me. And by the way, if anyone wants to read more about this stuff, feel free to go to thoughtworks.com and go to our Insights blog. We post a lot there, and it's a lot of really good content.
One can hope. What was the first career that you wanted?
I always wanted to be a software engineer.
That paid off for you then, I think. So on Reddit, besides cricket, what do you search for?
I'm very much into like r/Bay Area, r/ask SF, what's going in SF, what's going on in Bay Area. Recently, I started following community of my hometown. In India, it's a very small town, but there is a Reddit community about that with like a handful of users. But it is interesting to see what's going on. And I also participate.
Vishal, it's been great talking to you. I think that, there's an enduring theme that's come out about balance, whether it's explore, exploit, whether it's the revenue production of ads versus the content for people. I think your answers about that are interesting to me because it points out how often we're making that balanced decision. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, likewise, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening today. On our next episode, I'll be joined by GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop for a fun conversation about AI podcast. Please tune in.
Thanks for listening to Me, Myself, and AI. Our show is able to continue in large part due to listener support. Your streams and downloads make a big difference. If you have a moment, please consider leaving us an Apple Podcasts review or a rating on Spotify, and share our show with others you think might find it interesting and helpful.